Sadly, linear television isn't what it used to be, but there are some channels who aren't helping themselves when it comes to fighting back against the ratings backslide. MTV2, Cinemax, literally any network that cancels further production of original programming. The kids' TV space has been hit hard by the expanding fragmentation of content consumption, but more than anything, it seems one network is doing all it can to quicken its freefall and become second-rate. Cartoon Network is, somewhat naturally, the channel animation fans love to love and hate to dispute unless it's a bandwagon. That mental Olympic floor routine is a story for another time, and if you want to see it, I suggest you subscribe. While it was never the strongest, or even on even footing necessarily, with its kids' TV rivals, the battle was always between Nick and Disney Channel back in the day, Cartoon Network has done several things in recent years that haven't done their position any favors. While of course they've had their fair share of hits in terms of content, the current state of the checkerboarded channel is one that is rife with problems, and there is one big way in which that shows. Ratings are not the be-all end-all they used to be, and arguably Nickelodeon still thinks they are, but they're the only real, standardized, comparable barometer we have into a channel's performance, and even in the fractured content age these days we should appreciate that we have any such window into something like that at all. In a semi-recent video, I discussed Nielsen's ratings averages for a variety of major channels from 2019. While the kids' TV space has notably collapsed over the past few years, Cartoon Network has taken the biggest hit. Last year, the channel averaged a lowly 386,000 viewers, down 29% from 2018. That number alone doesn't tell the most complete picture on the channel's reach, as new episode premieres can still rack up hundreds of thousands more than that. But Disney Channel averages about 150,000 higher, and Nickelodeon's average pull is almost double that of CN's. Nickelodeon can still regularly attract 7-figure audiences for its premieres, as can Disney Channel on a good day. But Cartoon Network can't even dream of getting those kinds of numbers anymore. Disney XD, sadly long among the middle echelon of the three layers of kids networks, has been able to recently get premiere ratings that are fairly close to CN's average, and even beating CN's new episodes in the case of lower rating shows, though admittedly Disney XD has its own problems. It's really interesting to me to entertain the idea that Cartoon Network could sink down to the second tier of kids channels in terms of ratings in possibly just a couple of years, turning what's long been a big three into a two-player game. At that point, it would be unclear whether there would still be enough of an audience left to even make running Cartoon Network as it is now financially viable. Nick's offshoots seem to give up on much in the way of exclusive originals around the 150,000 mark, and Boomerang has slipped under that barrier itself. What would be a path forward if CN found themselves that low? While these shifts are part of a wider trend and their rivals have not gone unscathed, in addition to the gradual decline through increasing fragmentation across the landscape, Cartoon Network did this to themselves. Through decisions the network and its corporate parents have made in recent years, Cartoon Network have made their audience attraction woes far worse than they likely had to be. One of the biggest detriments they've put against themselves is the overpromotion of the Cartoon Network app as a viewing destination. While all of the big three have cable tie-in mobile apps, Cartoon Network utilized theirs as a frequent location for advanced premieres, rather than just an extended video on demand offering. And given the network's worsening scheduling tendencies during much of the back half of the 2010s, which I'll get to in greater detail in a moment, it increasingly became clear to many Cartoon Network viewers, both existing and potential, that if you really wanted to watch many of their series, you could only really do it through the app. CN's audiences have arguably been trained to head to the app first for their favorite shows, given the linear channel didn't seem interested in airing them, and it's likely that both the linear channel and the series themselves have gotten hurt because of it. Unfortunately, this theory can't be tested or proven, as we don't, and almost certainly won't, have any public numbers for what exactly has been viewed on the app and how much of an audience that's been bringing in. In addition to treating new episodes of their series poorly, Cartoon Network has also treated the rest of their schedule poorly as well. With the advent of Teen Titans Go and the later portions of The Amazing World of Gumball's lifespan, Cartoon Network began to heavily overplay just a couple shows, filling the vast expanse of their 14-hour airing day with more and more episodes of fewer and fewer series. It's agreed that this practice peaked around 2017, and most egregiously when the Teen Titans Go singularity finally happened, with Steven Universe wholly unable to stop it at the end of that year. You know the schedule by heart. Don't lie to me. While the situation has been improving ever since 2018, though TTG and Gumball still count for about a third of the weekly schedule each, the damage has largely been done. Years and years of monolithic scheduling of a divisive show has gained Cartoon Network a reputation as the Teen Titans Go channel and little else, especially after the conclusions of both Adventure Time and Steven Universe. This prevailing idea, regardless of its current accuracy, has turned off many from watching Cartoon Network and has suffocated the potential for success of many of CN's more recent series, though those shows have their own challenges starting to cause that I'll get to shortly. Even regardless of the quality of the shows themselves, Cartoon Network had been doing many of their series no favors for the longest by airing few, if any, reruns of episodes. Through not doing that for a number of recent CN series, these shows were likely robbed of potential additional audience through further linear exposure, in addition to further damaging ratings for the network itself by perpetuating the idea that Cartoon Network had little to offer beyond their lineup darlings unless you use the app. Though even if you do use the app, Cartoon Network's wider output may also be hurting the channel as a whole. Over the past couple of years, Cartoon Network has gotten into an unsettling pattern of producing, at best, uninspiring fare that only gets anywhere near creatively or conceptually interesting when the show is on the brink of cancellation. And that's on the occasions when Cartoon Network isn't producing shows seemingly intended to actively lower the bar as to what is acceptable as entertainment or seen as good content. Cartoon Network series in the former camp seem to follow the same executional pattern, which immediately sheds viewers who are looking to be sold a little less on a vague, muddled pipe dream of what could be, and a little more on a product that's engaging from the get-go, or at least some point within season 1. The shows that occupy the latter camp of Cartoon Network fare are outrage generators, first and foremost. In addition to being uninspiring shows like the rest of CN's content, they also seemingly go out of their way to tarnish at least one element of the paradigms that comprise a solid creative execution. Thundercats Roar from January wreaked its havoc with story development, while HBO Max's Tick and Seek, originally destined for CN, tore apart character dynamics. I have reviews on both that go into more detail as to how down in the description. While this is a newer trend, it is also a dangerous one. Not only does it put creativity and good storytelling within kids' TV at risk at a time when it's in possibly the best shape it's ever been, but it also builds Cartoon Network a reputation for bad content with objective failures on technical grounds, which gives future series a taller order when it comes to proving themselves. And that's on top of them having to overcome CN's current reputation and convince enough eyeballs to try it out that it makes further production financially worthwhile. The challenges to Cartoon Network's future as a relevant player are not just mounting on the inside from themselves, and from the uncontrollable ambitions of outside third parties. Cartoon Network also has trouble coming from the heights of their own conglomerate. As the streaming wars exploded in late 2019 and early 2020, media conglomerates thought they'd rake in more money by cutting out the middlemen involved with their linear ventures and delivering the content themselves in bids to give Netflix et al. A run for their money. Warner Media's contribution to this dangerous game was HBO Max, and in the development of this service, Warner Media moved several series intended for Cartoon Network to the new streaming platform, including the continuations of Infinity Train and Summer Camp Island, and the previously announced series Tick and Seek and the Fungies. In 2020 so far, this has stripped Cartoon Network of the potential to lure in new audiences through the premieres of new series, which may have knock-on effects for other shows on the network, and boost viewership both for the linear channel and in general. Despite much hubbub from fans of Cartoon Network and animation enthusiasts surrounding new fare in 2020, Cartoon Network themselves have only premiered one new series this year, Thundercats Roar. So far, as of writing in late August 2020, this year is the first time since the original Powerpuff Girls in 1998 that Cartoon Network has premiered only one new original on their air. It's unclear whether they'll have anything else to bring out this fall, but from appearances right now, it seems Warner Media is more interested in getting HBO Max off the ground than they are with maintaining assets they already have, like CN. Neither Disney nor Viacom CBS, who both have streaming service ambitions of their own, needed to take away content from their linear outlets in the way Warner Media decided to boost their respective streaming efforts. It's still early days in the case of Viacom CBS's plans to mount a streaming rival, however, so that may change. If content priorities have indeed begun to shift away from CN, then that means it will be far harder and far less likely for Cartoon Network itself to maintain its relevancy long term, hastening the ratings backslide and making it less appealing to continue producing content for the outlet, perhaps planning the obsolescence of Cartoon Network even. To be fully clear, I wish no ill will towards Cartoon Network. A hotly competitive game between kids TV's big three against an expanding and fragmenting content landscape is a win for everyone. However, the cards just seem to be stacked against Cartoon Network in every possible way right now. Ratings are down due to a bad reputation surrounding scheduling and one divisive show they're trying to get out from the shadow of. However, in doing that, they're creating uninteresting and even creatively lacking content which won't help them draw new audiences to boost ratings. Plus, that new content is being shunted off away from Cartoon Network, which gives them fewer new series to try and attract new audiences with, meaning that CN can't put up as much of a fight against the external forces which are driving ratings downward already. The future of Cartoon Network as a first-string kids TV channel is deeply in doubt in a way that I can't say is as prevalent or as urgent as its chief rivals. As to whether Cartoon Network can keep its prestige and keep the cable race a three-player game as the 2020s roll on, let the chips fall where they may. For more on how Cartoon Network as a channel is uninteresting currently, check out my review of their performance in 2019, up here or down in the description. For more explorations like this, make sure you hit subscribe for new videos on the world of television every single week. I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television, and I'll see you next time.